Okay, so today's warm-up is modeling adding integers. So I'm going to go ahead and have you try it out in your warm-ups. When you're done, come back and play this. So you need to stop this before we go on. Go ahead and try it out and then play this again and see if you have the correct answer. Remember, if you don't understand it, I'm okay with you trying to look at the answer before that, but at least try it first and then go from there. So now that you tried it, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and write this out for you. So the circles, empty circles, are going to be positive. So we're going to go ahead and write 6 positive plus, then the circles that are shaded in are negative. So that's -2. And your answer should have been +4. For number 2, same thing. Empty circles are positive. So that's 5 plus, then the shaded in circles are negatives, so that's going to be -7. So when you combine them, then it's going to be -2, your answer. So hopefully you tried it out yourself and then just continue playing this, and make sure that you're at least trying, and hopefully it helps you with tomorrow's test, because tomorrow you do have a test. Also, make sure you put away your warm-up so you could get started on the lesson. So before you get started, make sure you have the half sheet, and this half sheet is going to go into your composition book after you've done writing all the notes. Make sure you're understanding it, especially when I'm doing the examples, because you will be working from your online textbook on your assignment. Make sure that you are showing your work on a sheet of paper when you're working on that assignment. I'll remind you when you are going through that assignment. So let's start with the notes. To solve problems with different operations, we need to first multiply or divide from left to right. Then add and subtract from left to right. Add or subtract, sorry. So basically, we are doing order of operation. I don't know if you were taught this in 5th grade. I'm sure you were. But you guys were using, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, it's the same thing. Multiply, divide first from left to right, then add and subtract from left to right. So first you got to do those. Make sure that you understand that. This doesn't mean MD, multiply, divide, doesn't mean that you do all multiplication first, then division. You have to work on them from left to right. And add and subtract, again, the same thing. Doesn't mean you add first, then subtract. You work them out from left to right. So I'm going to give you 4 examples. Make sure you're following through. I would watch the video first and then stop the video and write out the problems. So watch the video, then write it out. So here's example 1. And like I said, please watch the video first, and then you could just go ahead and copy the problem on your paper. That way you know the process. So here we have multiplication and addition. In this case, whenever you see parentheses next to a number, that means multiplication. Then you have adding 8. So we're going to go ahead and do multiplication first and then add the 8. So let's start with that. So -4 times 3. Remember the multiplication rules. If they are different signs, then that means you're going to have a negative. So this is going to be -12. So I did that plus 8. So I'm rewriting the problem again. Now I have a -12 plus an 8. So they're different signs, so that means I'm going to subtract. So -12 plus 8 will give you -4, because 12 has more of, and when there's different signs, you're going to subtract. So I use the multiplication rules for the first one, and then I use the addition rules for the second one. So make sure you understand that. That was a simple one. Let's go to the next one. Oh, and by the way, you could stop the video right now so you could copy that down. Watch, then write. Example number 2. Here we have a fraction, then a -3. Well, what that fraction means, it's going to be division. So even though it's in parentheses, it's just trying to keep it together. But that doesn't mean you're doing parentheses first. You're just doing the division first because that is what you do first. You do division, then you add and subtract. So let's go ahead and do that. Negative 25 divided by 5. Okay, the fraction means division. So when you're dividing by two different signs integers, that means you're going to have a negative. So when I divide negative 25 by 5, your answer is going to be 5. Then you have a minus 3. Now in this case, we have to do KFC. So that means I'm going to go ahead and keep the first one. So KFC. Keep the first one. Flip the minus to a plus. Change the next number to its opposite. So since it's positive, then it's going to be negative 3. So now I have negative 5 plus negative 3. Well, in this case, because they're same signs, the addition rule means that you're going to add them and it stays a negative. So 5 plus 3 is 8, and your answer is going to be negative 8. So make sure you're following those rules. Remember, you have to make sure you're following those rules and take it step by step, because if you try to rush through it, then your answer is going to be wrong. So stop the video and copy the problem. Okay, here's example 3. Again, don't write anything until you finish that. Now, if you notice here, we have a number next to parentheses, then a parentheses next to a parentheses. All that means is multiplication. So what we do two problems first, the two numbers first, and then we do the third one. So let's start with this one. Now, if it's negative times a negative, that means my answer is going to be positive. So 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses around it, put negative 2 minus negative 8. I'm rewriting the question or the problem because that keeps me organized and I could see what comes next. So again, parentheses next to parentheses means multiplication. So that means 20 times 2 is going to be 40. And 40, because you have a positive and a negative, that means different signs, so your answer is going to be negative. So in this case, you have negative 40 minus a negative 8. Now this is where we're going to be doing keep, change, flip. So I keep the negative 40. I flip or change the minus to positive. I flip the negative to a positive. So now we have different signs, and adding integer rules means that you're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So in this case, negative 40 plus 8 is going to give you 40 minus 8 is going to give you 32, and it's going to be a negative. So my answer is negative 32. So I know I flipped the KCF. It could be KFC, as long as you remember that you're changing the subtraction to addition and the second number. So make sure you remember that. Again, stop it and then write everything that I wrote. Okay, and the last one here is a little bit more challenging because we have a fraction, which means division. Then we have parentheses next to parentheses, which means multiplication. Then we have addition with a negative. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and first solve the division because that came first. So because that's first, we're going to do division first. So 36 divided by negative 12. So it's a positive and a negative, so that means it's going to be a negative answer. So we have negative 3, because 36 divided by 12 is 3. Now we're going to go ahead and put in parentheses and rewrite everything again. So now we have negative 3 times positive 3. So, negative 3 times negative 3. So negative times negative is going to give you a positive. So 3 times 1 is just 3. Then you're going to add the negative 7. So now we're going to the addition rules. So the addition rules will be 3 plus negative 7. That's different signs. That means we're going to subtract. So 7 minus 3 is going to give you 4. And because 7 it has more and it's a negative, your answer is going to be negative. So my answer here is negative 4. So this is the last example. Hopefully you understood it. Go ahead and stop the video so you could glue or tape your notes into your composition book. Okay, so now that you already glued your notes in your composition book, what I need you to do is now you're going to go ahead and go and log into your MyNISD. That's called the NISD portal, so you need to go ahead and do that. Now remember, to log in, you have to use your S number and your number. Make sure you put them all in, and then your 4x4. Remember the first 4 letters of your last name, and then your last 4 numbers of your social. So go ahead and do that and log in, and you should see what's on the screen next. So once you've logged in, this is what you should come up. This is your portal. That means you have access to CMS. That's where you could see your results for benchmark or test or anything like that. You also have your hack, which is where you go see your grades. Discovery Education, you do that whenever you have extra time in any class. You have your Gmail. You have to manage your password, which means that you could change something up, but we don't recommend you doing that. Then we have your Holt McDougall Online, and then you have Think Central. Now what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going into McGraw-Hill Connected. So make sure you go there, click on that one, and you should see what's on the next screen, you should see what's next. Okay, so once you're here, you're going to go ahead and just click on the Texas Math Course 1, 2015. This is the grade 6 math book. This is what the book you have at home, but we have an online practice. So I'll show you what it should look like once you click on that. Okay, so once you're here, you're going to see that you have an assignment due, and this assignment you could start today, but it will be due tomorrow. So today is Tuesday, October 23rd. Tomorrow will be Wednesday, October 24th. So make sure you're working on that. So once you do that, click on that, work on it independently. If you need to show work on a sheet of paper, I suggest you do that. It is going to be multiple choice and different answer choices. So make sure that you are clicking on it after you worked it on your sheet of paper. Now it will give you a grade. It will give you any answers that are wrong. It will explain to you why you got it wrong. There might be videos too, so make sure that you're using those to your advantage. Remember, this is all practice because tomorrow you do have a test. Make sure you're adding integer rules, you're multiplying and dividing integer rules, you're multiplying and dividing fractions rules, and you're multiplying and dividing decimal rules. All of that is going to be on your test. There is going to be 10 problems, and you are going to be required to complete it in one day. So make sure you're studying everything here. Make sure that you're going back to your notes and studying them. So go ahead and get started. Please make sure you're working independently and you're working quietly. So good luck on your practice, and I'll see you tomorrow.